Hello. Good afternoon. How are you doing? Hope you are doing well on this lovely Friday afternoon. I am jumping on today because I want to talk to you about the shoulds. So the title of this live stream is do you want more than a job that looks good on paper? And I want to talk about some of the things that flow from that concept. And if this is the first time that you are catching one of my live streams, then my name is Janine S. Brand, and I am a career strategist and an executive coach. And I help unfulfilled female professionals to transition into roles that are more impactful, that are more meaningful, where they can earn more money, and they can do so without having to retrain. So I want to talk about this topic because I have conversations often with people who are contemplating making some kind of move in their careers. And what I hear time and time again is the frustration that people find themselves in around their careers can be often rooted in where they feel like they should be at this stage in their career. So if somebody is a mid-level professional, so a lawyer, an accountant, someone in finance, someone who is in project management, someone who is in a role that has required them to work hard to get to where they are, often those types of professions have a set track, have a set path. There's a certain amount of time that you spend at the beginning as a junior, and there's a certain amount of time that you spend at the next stage before you then get promoted to the next stage and ultimately make it to the top, right? And with that very clear path, it's easy for people to look around and say what they should be doing at this stage of their career. So I was speaking to someone earlier on today, and she was mentioning that given where she is in terms of her post-qualification experience, she's a lawyer, she's looking around at some of her peers and they are GCs, or they are partners in law firms. They are doing what she's not currently doing. And whilst it's great to be able to acknowledge what peers are doing and what other people are doing, if that pathway isn't actually right for you, it doesn't really matter what other people are doing. But we're not used to that. We're used to looking at the benchmark, looking at the what everyone is doing as the standard. We're used to saying, well, when I get to this level of qualification, or I have this many years experience, I ought to be here. And the problem with that is it doesn't take into account you as an individual and what it is you want to do and what you're actually really good at and what skill set you want to be bringing to the world and to the marketplace. It's just blanket, at this stage, I should be here. And I see that as a big source of a lot of frustration and confusion amongst people who are trying to figure out what their career should look like next. Because here's the thing, on paper, you have it all together, right? It's like you've got the great job, you earn good money, you have a good lifestyle, everything looks good on paper. But what I want to talk to you today about is what about what happens beyond the paper, right? Like it's great to be able to write all these things down, but what is the reality for you? What is the actual reality for you? So when we look at it, it's like, yeah, I'm doing really well. I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm showing up, I'm doing the work. I'm honoring my commitment to this role. I'm working hard. I'm getting results. My clients are happy. My seniors are happy. My supervisors are happy. I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Fantastic. But if that's what's happening on a day-to-day basis, and when you leave the office, you are going home and you are chewing your spouse's ear off, or you are speaking to your best friend and you're like, I'm so frustrated in this role. This isn't what I want to be doing, but I don't know what else I want to be doing. There's misalignment there. It's like we're showing up in the daytime like, yeah, everything's good, fantastic. How are you? I'm fine. I'm good. You're showing up to your reviews and you're like, yes, I've worked really hard. I've achieved this. I've achieved that. We're not openly being honest about how it is that we're feeling about the role because we don't want to do that. We don't want to let people know what we really feel. So on a day-to-day basis, there's a disconnect between how you're showing up and what you're expressing as what it is you want to be doing and how you want to be showing up and what the reality is behind closed doors, right? And what we want to be doing is closing that gap, because quite honestly, that's exhausting. It's exhausting to be showing up on a day-to-day basis, doing your best work, but knowing that this isn't actually what I want to be doing. Like imagine the amount of output that you have right now and the impact that you're making within your organization or within your firm, imagine how much you're able to do right now from a place of I'm doing it because I know I can and because I should. Imagine what more could happen if you were showing up in the same way with the same amount of energy and the same amount of commitment, but to something that you were actually passionate about or something that you were actually interested in. What more would you be able to do? Because I hear from my clients all the time that they feel like they are showing up, they're doing their work, but they're not even operating at 100%. Like, I'm not even operating at 100%. This is easy for me. I can show up, I can do it. It comes easy. But like, where's the stretch? Where's the stretch? And that's part of the reason why a lot of the people I speak to are feeling bored, because it's like, yeah, I can do this job. You can, and you can spend your time doing that, but there's no growth in that. I just came from a personal training session. And when I tell you, I was stretched beyond measure. I didn't even know if I was going to make it to this live stream today. And what I realized, and the lesson that I took from the session, is a lot of the time we feel like our limits are here when actually our limits are way here, but we don't give ourselves the opportunity to see ourselves stretch. We don't give ourselves the opportunity to really grow into what it is we need to be doing. So I was doing my exercise with a certain, number of weights, and I was like, okay, I can do it. And then the trainer came along and was like, no, you're doing that too easily. Let's double it. And I'm like, what? Double it? He's like, yeah, let's double it. Like, you're doing those squats too easily. Let's double it. And I'm like, I can't do that. It's so hard. Da, 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 da. And then when he gave me the weights, he was like, you have children who weigh more than these weights. And I know you lift them up. I know you've been lifting them up for the last 6 years. So you can absolutely do this. And I was like, okay, you're right. And I did the squats with the doubled weights. Why? Because he challenged me to stretch. And I put myself in an environment where I was being stretched and I was stepping outside of my comfort zone. But so many of us are not willing to step outside of our comfort zones when it comes to our careers. It's like, I feel comfortable here. I know what I'm doing in this realm over here. As much as it's frustrating, the thing that brings fulfillment. Like, you need to figure out what the thing is that is going to make you not be feeling like there's a misalignment here on a day-to-day basis. You need to figure out what is the thing that's going to allow you to show up and give your 100% and know that 100% is valued, and know that 100% is making an impact. Because a lot of the time, the thing that people feel is missing is like, I'm not making a difference. I'm not making an impact. I'm showing up on a day-to-day basis, but I can't see how this is like flowing into something tangible in terms of impact. And it's like, if you're not seeing the impact of the work that you're doing and you want to be seeing the impact, maybe you're operating at a level that's too low. Maybe it is time for you to step up. Or maybe it is time for you to use that same skill set that you have and apply it in a different space, in a different industry, in a different realm. So when we're talking about doing more for your career, wanting more from your career, it's like, it's great for things to look good on paper, but let's talk about reality. Let's talk about reality. And then the question is, okay, so if I identify that this isn't what I want to be doing and I want to be doing something else, like, where do I even start with that? Where do I even go to figure out what the move is? And I think the biggest mistake that I see within the career space, or when people are looking at making moves, is the assumption that I need to just throw everything out the window. Like, everything that I've been doing so far is not working because I'm feeling the way that I'm feeling. Like, I'm showing up every day, I'm doing the work, but I don't feel fulfilled. I don't feel stretched. I don't feel like I'm making an impact. And so I want to do something completely different. But then what happens is people get stuck there. Why do you get stuck there? Because you are going from a very structured career path that you have had. You are going from somebody else telling you what you need to do next, right? Go to university, go to law school, become a junior, become an associate, do the next thing. And if you're not a lawyer, whatever professional services background you're in, it's the same thing, right? Someone's going to tell you have to do this, this, and this, and this first. That's what you've been used to. That's what you're conditioned to do. And so that's how you've been showing up for the last 5, 10, 15 years of your career. So then now when you're faced with the question, okay, well, if I wasn't going to do this, what else would I do? You don't have experience of a thought process that allows you to think outside of right? So when you're saying, well, what else could I do? And then you're thinking, I'm so frustrated here that I have to go and do something completely different. The reason that you get stuck and keep coming back to, well, I don't know what else I would do, is because it's too big. It's like, what else could I do? There's so many careers out there. I could do anything. And it's like, okay, well, let's bring it down. Let's bring it down and think about, where do I actually need to start with my thought process? Where do I need to start? Because if you're just like, I don't like what I'm doing right now, I want to do something different, how do you know what needs to change? How do you know that you don't move from where you are right now and go into a different role and feel the same way that you feel? You need to be able to identify what are the actual things that are causing me to not like the work that I'm doing, or not feel stretched in the work that I'm doing, or not feel passionate about the work that I'm doing. What are the specifics? Because then when you work with the specifics, that is our starting place where we can say, okay, well, if I feel like this is missing, what kind of shift or change or pivot would I need to make so that I could get that? And oftentimes when people that I work with inside of my program do this work to really identify what is the thing that is causing me to feel like I don't want to do this, what is missing for me, when they do that work, they can realize that, yeah, maybe I do want to do something completely different, but maybe I just need to make a slight change. Maybe I just need to make a slight pivot. And so what seems so big in terms of this massive career change where you just want to throw everything out and do something different becomes achievable, because it's like, actually, I don't need to make that huge change. I could just make a shift. I can maybe move into a different department. I can maybe go and step into doing the same thing, but doing it in a different environment. And so what seemed big and impossible then seems possible. It's like, okay, I can make that kind of move. I can see how that could work. So I'm not saying that for some people a radical career change isn't required. What I'm saying is the assumption that it is required is a problem, because that assumption will keep you stuck. And what we want to be doing is analyzing, like, from information and data that you already have, so that you can make data-driven decisions, not just random spaghetti at the wall, like, let's see what we're going to do type decisions, because you are not wired for that. If you are a professional who has worked hard to get to where you are in your career, if you have been trained to think logically, to manage risk, to be risk averse, what then makes you think you're going to be able to just on a whim just throw your career away and do something else? It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. So you just stay stuck. So instead, let's lean into making data-driven decisions. Let's lean into asking yourself the right questions so you can determine what it is that you need to change. So let me give you an example that would be familiar. Like, if you think about client work. So when you work with clients, a client comes into your firm, a client comes into your organization, and they are working with you. You are advising them on a transaction or a project. At the end of that transaction or the project, the client comes back and says, I'm not happy. I'm not happy with the work that was done. I'm not happy, right? When that client says, I'm not happy, what do? Do you go back to the drawing board and say, okay, guys, the way that we have been doing law all of this time, or the way that we have been servicing our clients from a project management perspective all this time has been incorrect because this one client has come back and says they're not happy? No, you don't do that. What you do is you ask for specifics. I'm so sorry you feel that way. What about your experience has made you unhappy? And then when you get the specifics, you can act on it. So when they come back and say, well, I don't feel like the communication was good. I don't feel like I've had enough visibility on where my project was going or where the transaction was developing, or I didn't like the way that lawyer spoke to me, or I didn't like the way that the accountant assessed my books. When they tell you the specifics, then you can assess whether or not anything needs to change. You could say, okay, is this a one-off situation? Is this something that's happening time and time again? Do we need to make some tweaks to our process? Do we need to enhance things? Do we need to change things? But you're making a decision based on the specific feedback, not the general, like, oh, I'm not happy with the service, because that doesn't help. That doesn't help to change things, because it's not possible for you to just change everything in the way that you do things because one client has complained, right? And so with that analogy in mind, I want you to think about your career. Like, what are you actually trying to do? Are you just trying to say, well, I'm not happy, so I've got to throw everything out? Or are you able to get specific so you understand, what do I need to tweak and what do I need to change? There are so many variables when it comes to your work environment and how you work. There is the work that you do, that you have to sit down at your desk or wherever you work and do. There are the clients that you work with. There are the colleagues that you work alongside. There is the company that you're in and the culture of the company. There is the industry that you are in and the values of the industry. There are so many different layers to what it means to show up and do the work that you do, which means there's possibility to tweak all of those variables. But what we need to be able to do is understand, where do we start? Where do we start? What variables need to be tweaked? And what are the things that can change to actually move the needle? So in order for you to really have more from your career and not just have a career that looks good on paper to everybody outside, you need to take the time. First and foremost, like, take the time to do an audit and really understand, what is it about what I'm doing that's not working? And recognize that the assumptions that you might be making about what is required for you to feel better about what it is that you're doing may be incorrect. Like, what assumptions are you making, and do they need to be adjusted? And in addition to that, the assumptions that you're making about what is possible may be too limited. You might not even realize the possibilities and the potential opportunities that there are with that you could move into using your skill set, because you've been busy. You've been busy getting your head down, doing the work, making money, doing the things, adding value where you are. You've been busy doing that. So have you been paying attention to what is potentially around you in terms of opportunities? Probably not. So my encouragement to you today is not to focus so much on, okay, but I should just stay here because, like, this is a good opportunity, or I should be over here. If I'm going to move, I should make this type of move because that's what other people in my industry are doing, or that's what my peers are doing, or I should just give it a little bit more time, or I should just accept that, I've got a great role, so I should just be here. Let's let go of the shoulds for a moment and lean into, look, but what do I actually want to do, and why do I want to do what I want to do? Because that shifts things. And if you're unclear on what the next step is, start with, well, why am I unhappy where I am? That's like the first thing that can help you to start determining, well, where should I move to? Okay. So when it comes to, okay, what should I be doing? Should I stay? Should I go? Really lean into, what is the issue? What is your actual issue? Why is it that you're feeling the way that you're feeling? And that can give you clues. So that's what I wanted to share with you today. If you are a lawyer, an accountant, if you're in financial services, if you are a professional, if you're a female professional, and what I have shared with you today resonates, and you're like, okay, yes, I know that I want to make a move, but I find myself getting stuck in the shoulds, or getting stuck in, well, how would I make the transition, or what would I need to do? Let's have a conversation, because I can support you inside of my coaching program. I work with different professional women who are looking at making a move, to help them to get the clarity on what the next move needs to look like. What's the best next move for you in your career? And then once we get that clarity, we're off to the races, and we're looking at strategy. How do we position you so that you can move from where you are right now to where it is you want to be without having to retrain? Because I can guarantee that if you have been working in your industry for 5, 10, 15 years, you have experience, you have skill set, you have exposure, you have value that you are able to package and use wherever it is that you want to go. But the key thing is understanding how to articulate the value that you currently have and how to translate it to where it is that you want to go. So we work on that inside of the program. So ultimately, you're in a position where, one, you raise your level of self-awareness because you understand yourself more. So you know what it is that isn't working for you, and you know what it is that is going to work for you. You're able to identify the type of opportunity that's going to be great and exciting for you. And then we're able to help you to shift into that. So I get so excited when I'm working with my clients inside of the program. So if you feel like that sounds interesting, then I invite you to book a call with me, or send me a DM actually, and then we can have a conversation and see whether the program seems like a good fit, and then we could jump on a call. and discuss it further. So send me a message. Let's have a conversation. And if you know anybody who is at a crossroads in their career and trying to figure out where they go next and how they move, whether that is a lateral move, completely different move into a different space, or whether that is them moving up in their career, then share this with them. Let them know about what you've just heard. And yeah, I appreciate you for being here and for listening. If you're catching this on the replay, #replay. And if you're here right now, let me know in the comments. I am happy to answer any questions around what I have shared. So if you have any questions, feel free to post them below. I will check back the comments and answer them perhaps on another live stream or in the comments itself. All right, that is all I have for you today. Have a wonderful weekend, and I will speak to you very, very soon. Bye.